Okay, guys, welcome back to the Let's Get Freaky podcast. Very excited to welcome to the show tonight. We've got Daniel Benoit with us. How are you, my brother? Thank you.
And I am doing great. I am doing great. I can't complain. I mean, there's a lot going on. A lot to be excited about and a lot to look forward to in
Yeah,
my life.
you're a busy
So,
man. You're a busy man. And you've got, I
yeah.
have to say, and I just said it to you just before we started recording, you've got an incredible beard.
No, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm proud of it. I did away with the beard for a while. I trimmed it down to nothing. I mean, of course, I look so much younger without it. But I had so many people complaining. I mean, they got to know me with a beard. Like the beard, you need the beard. Bring the beard back. Because it gives you that mountain man image. Because they used to see me out in the woods all the time with a beard, and like you're not the same person out there without the beard. I said, well, it grows back pretty quick. So I'm allowed to trim it down and get rid of it every now and then. But so yeah, I've been letting it grow back. It's still got a little ways to go yet, but it's coming along.
It's looking good, man. It's looking good. I've,
Yeah.
I've, I've had a beard for quite a long time now. I know it's not as long as yours, not as cool as yours, but I'm kind of frightened to take it all off because I don't know what's underneath anymore. There
Uh,
could be more going on that I didn't know. So
right.
it's a risk. I don't know if I want to take it all off now, but no, it's cool, man.
Well, as long as you don't have skin like I do. I mean, because my skin, like I know if I take this down, blotches and I don't know all kinds of
It happens.
skin issues. Yeah.
The beard
Yep.
protects us.
Yes, it does. Yes.
So they're saying you're a busy man. You've got a book that's just come out,
Yes.
Trails of the Unknown. Looks
Yes.
awesome. I'm definitely going to be getting it. That's for sure. You're a wildlife and Bigfoot researcher. You're a part of the East Coast Bigfoot Research Organization, and you've got an awesome show called Bigfoot Zone ECBRO, which I recently
Yeah.
found, and it's really cool, man. So you are a busy man. You've got a lot going on.
Absolutely. I mean, like right now, I call it the season of the podcast because right now during the winter months out here in the states, you know there's not much you could do when there's weather conditions, snow is out here, and your traveling is limited to where I mean it's limited, but it's not limited. But where I go out to, the state does not maintain those roads, so I drive right now. I currently drive a little car, so my car ain't gonna. I don't feel comfortable taking it out there right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Have you still got the snow? Have you still got the heavy snow and
Well,
stuff?
it's finally starting to melt because we've been getting some warm temperature. Like just the other day, we reached about 60 degrees, and I mean the rest of the week's gonna be 40s and 30s. But so it's above freezing. It's finally starting to melt down. So
Whoa,
I don't know if we'll get more, but we'll see. I know Saturday they will call for more, so I don't know if it's going to
really?
accumulate or anything. So
I mean, I love snow. I can't lie. It doesn't
oh, I
snow.
do too.
Yeah. It just rains a lot where I am in the UK. It's actually beat
Oh,
a record. They beat a record apparently. It's rained continuously this year so far, and apparently that's never happened before. It's rained every day this year. I think today might be the first day it hasn't rained. I'm not sure,
wow.
but there's been a lot of rain, man, and we're in February now, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, not that I would probably know it, but what part of the UK are you located
So
in?
I'm based in Dorset, so I'm on the south coast. I'm
Oh,
about
okay.
2 hours from London, which is where I'm pretty
Hmm.
much from. But yeah, I'm on the south coast now. It doesn't snow here a lot, unfortunately.
Okay.
Hasn't had any snow, which I'd quite like, but it does rain a heck of a lot.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I have the young gentleman. Uh, you may know him. Maybe you've had him. I don't know. The young gentleman out there, I get to give credit to. He is very much involved with the whole cryptid research and everything. And
Mhm.
I feel like he's coming along quite well for himself. Daniel Lee Barnett.
Yes, had him on the
Yes.
podcast. Yeah,
Okay. Good deal. Yeah. I wasn't sure if you
yeah,
did or not, but
yes,
yeah.
yeah. He's a
Yeah. He
cool
just
guy.
absolutely. He just had a documentary that was put out. I believe they were playing it in the theaters or something.
Yeah,
So
it's coming very
yeah,
soon. Yeah, he's
absolutely.
an exceptional young man because he's literally I think he's 16 now.
Okay, 16.
I
Yeah.
think so. I
Yeah.
think he's 16. But when he first came out with the finding that he found, and for anyone that doesn't know, he found a track in Somerset a Bigfoot track, a possible Bigfoot track, and he took some DNA, he took some samples and sent them off to different labs around the world. And one of the labs in Portugal came back saying that he'd found old ape DNA, which is
Nice.
pretty wild, yeah, pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And he was 13 when he did that, man. And I find that's mind blowing. When I was 13, I couldn't do anything. He's out there finding Bigfoot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I was 13, I was, oh, what else? I don't know. Probably going. I grew up fishing. I love fishing, so
Hmm.
I was probably fishing or playing in the neighborhood, playing basketball. So I don't know.
Same,
But
man.
yeah.
So I know you're in the East Coast. Can you tell us whereabouts you are on the East Coast?
Yeah, I'm in the state of Virginia.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I'm originally from the state of Massachusetts, which is up north, where we get much colder winters up there. But yeah, I mean, we came to Virginia. Me and my family. My father transferred with his job down here, so I pretty much grew up here in Virginia since
Hmm.
age 11. And here I am. I'll be 46 in March, and it was quite the change. It was quite the change coming from up north and being down south because the way the history runs around here from the north and south. There's people still living the Civil War, and living in the past. And when you come down here, you're like Dorothy and Wizard of Oz. You're not in Kansas no more, Toto. You have a few. There was a few young kids, and I'm going to tell you, they get it from their parents, but they're being raised to be ignorant. There's still people to this day that's like that. And there's a hatred that hatred. It's basically more, as people say, it's taught, and a
Hmm.
lot of it is taught in the home. They don't have respect for many people, but that's the
Hmm.
ignorance of people. But that you
Yeah.
learn you learn to deal with it. Just go about it. Go around it. So
No, absolutely. I think parents have got a big part to play in this. Obviously, it's difficult bringing up kids, as we know, but
yeah, it's like my
it's
little guy,
tough.
my grandson. You want the best for them to grow up. You don't
Mm,
want them. You don't want them getting bullied. You don't want them.
yeah.
'Cause, some of us we've gone through it. We don't want them to go through it.
Absolutely,
So
man. Yeah,
you know,
we want to protect them, but
right.
it's yeah, yeah. Man. So I'd like to get into what got you into some of these fascinating topics such as Bigfoot, the paranormal, the unknown, the strange. Where does it start for you, man?
Well, the long story short, are you familiar with the Roger Patterson, Bob Gimlin
Oh,
footage?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I will say this: that is a big, major part that actually got me involved. I mean, till this day, that video has been dissected left and right. I mean, science has really put the effort into that, trying to debunk it.
Hmm.
There's a lot of speculation on it. There's a lot of debate over that film. But when I first saw that, I mean, it just, whoa, wow, it wowed me. It's like that's from 1967. You know, Here's a couple factors about that. I mean, some people know this or realize this, but a lot of people don't realize, especially as skeptics and non-believers, that if they ever observe this footage, to realize, look at this is 1967.
Hmm.
Okay, what was the best thing they had back then? Well, look at Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes came out a year later, March 20. I can tell you exactly, March 28th in 1970. No, 1968. So they had monkey-looking faces on their costumes. Uh, Other than that, Hollywood didn't have nothing better. Disney even said, nope, we don't have nothing like that. They don't look nothing like what we could do.
Hmm.
I mean, all these big networks were like, no, we can't produce that. We don't have nothing that looks that good. And then other factors, the, the possibly kind of give credibility towards Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. These guys were broke. These guys didn't have money. Who are they going to pay to, hey, come up with this costume? Do this. There was rumors and speculation that there's one guy came forward later on. So yeah, I was the one in the suit. There's no proof of that. You know,
Hmm.
there's some funny things about that too. Though, like because that guy passed a polygraph test. Bob Dylan and Roger. Roger, I mean, excuse me, Bob did. They have both passed, but is one of them lying? We don't know that. But I will say, from my view on that, the gait, the way everything performs, the details they were able to analyze and pinpoint on that, the muscle movement, and everything.
Yeah.
That kind of stuck with me, and but that footage alone really opened my eyes, because here's me. I mean, I grew up in the woods. I mean, I was playing in the woods as a young kid. We used to build forts and stuff in the backyard in the woods, and we played all kinds of crazy stuff in the woods. And then Dad used to take me hunting with him out in the woods. So I mean, I grew up being very acquainted and familiar with the outdoors. And but as that opened my eyes to a new world, I was really starting to like look, listen, and it's just like all my senses became more heightened. I was becoming more aware of my surroundings. Um, because ever since I got involved later on, I've talked I've talked to hunters. I've spoken to hunters that I meet out in the woods, or nearby, wherever I may run into them. I'll get into a gradual conversation with them. It's some of them, you feel like they might know something, and you'll talk to them, and then you get into introducing yourself, like, hey, this is who I am. I'm a wildlife and Bigfoot researcher. I'm out there looking for Bigfoot and blah blah blah. And, I get some people that have tell me like, oh, I'm in the woods all the time. I never see no evidence of Bigfoot or anything such as that for them to exist. The funny thing is, they're not looking. They're there for one thing, not
Hmm.
their mindset. They got blinders on. They're focused on one thing. So people don't realize that just because you have all these hunters in the woods, unless something walks out in front of them, it's a different story. But these guys are not deliberately, looking for something.
Hmm.
They're there for hunting that deer or maybe a turkey or whatever. They're not there looking for scouting around, looking for the possible evidence of a Sasquatch.
Hmm.
So
And they might be
so
missing key evidence. They're not going to see a footprint, or they're not going to see, because the footprints are not always easy to see. They're like, sometimes you've got to be looking, and it might take a while to actually realize that that could be a footprint and stuff like that. And yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I love being in the woods to begin with. I mean, I could be walking through the woods just to walk and hike and just be out
Hmm.
there. But if I want to find something, I have to take my time. I have to look for it. It's not guaranteed that you'll find something every time, but you have to be willing to put in that time to look. And
Hmm.
observe and listen. So um, yeah, because those are some major key roles, and with anybody that's out there, if you're out there wanting to find evidence, you got to look for it.
Hmm.
Simple as that. And then there's a lot more that follows behind that, because with my research and the way I've been involved with this, I've learned to be very objective about a lot of things. Now, I will say this. Of course, when I first got involved with all this and learned about others on social media that were involved, and there was so much enthusiasm. I was one of those people that were really pumped up about Bigfoot and the research and getting involved. And yeah, I was one of those people that, man, I can't wait to go just walk out in the woods thinking I'm going to find evidence nonstop. No, it's not that easy. Um, I saw, on the other hand, there was people that do that. I mean, they look at every broken tree, or snapped tree or twisted limb or whatever. Oh, that's Bigfoot. Bigfoot was here. You don't know how many times I've heard that. Especially with being with others. I've been out with other people older than me. You know, years ago, and that's how they are. I was like, how do you know? I was like, I was the one. I was kind of keeping quiet and kind of. I didn't want to disrespect them. They were older than me. So, but I that was the biggest question. I said, how are these people making these claims? They're not
Hmm.
witnessing that. I mean, did you see what made that? No, but according to their belief system, and I talk about a lot of this in my book too, by the way. How people get so mesmerized with their imagination. Because
Hmm.
they let their basically they let their imagination control their belief system or what they think they know, rather than looking at logical explanation and having a more clear logical or critical thought, on, well, I look at things as a possibility. I don't make factual information. You know,
Hmm.
I have a few other books too. They're small field guide books, and a couple of things like I look at it. Well, one of them is titled "Theories versus Facts." You know, and of course, people like to judge the book by its cover, thinking, "Oh, you know facts about Bigfoot." No, read the book. Don't judge the book by its cover. You know, a
Hmm.
lot of people are famous for that. You know, so a lot of my theories are the theories that I've learned from others that float social media and flood the Bigfoot community. The
Hmm.
facts I point out actually point towards the wildlife because there's a lot of facts about wildlife that people neglect to know or learn to know, and they give that credit to Bigfoot. You know, Bigfoot should be our last consideration. You know,
Hmm.
our last conclusion. You know, there's a quote. I put out this quote. I've kept it for a long time, and I've actually included it in the book and a couple other of my books. Learn and know what is known before seeking the unknown. You know,
Hmm.
I think it speaks for itself. You know,
Yeah,
uh,
until it's like undeniable,
right?
you shouldn't
Exactly.
jump to conclusions. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it more impressive or more exciting, I should say, to be able to try or attempt to rule out all the other suspects. You know, it is a process of elimination on a lot of this. Even with the process of elimination, we may not get down to the very bottom of it, but we'll get something close to it. I mean,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
so,
Yeah,
but
man.
yeah,
But like you, for me, the Patterson Gimlin film was like, I remember seeing it as a little kid. I saw it. I had a book called The Guinness Book of Records,
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
and they had the Patterson Gimlin film in like pictures. Obviously, it was in pictures, but I remember seeing
Oh,
it and being
okay.
like, "Whoa!" and like showing my mum and dad and stuff, and they were like, "Yeah, it's Bigfoot," and yeah, they're out there in like California, and you know, when you're
Yeah.
a kid, the thing is with your parents, they say, "Oh, there's one of them in California," you know, and you think, "Wow, that's incredible," and then you see Harry and the Hendersons, and it's like that and that. But for
I love
me,
that movie.
oh, it's great.
Yeah, I just
Great
watched that
movie.
a few days ago with my grandson. I've seen it multiple times, but he never seen it till like last week, and he was
Yeah.
just having fun watching it.
Oh, it's a great film, man.
Yeah, it is.
When you're little, when you watch that, it's like Harry's real, you know.
Yep,
It's great.
exactly.
But the Patterson Gimlin film for me, because I know it's still kind of controversial. Some people say it's not real. I think most people lean towards that it is legit. Really, most people that I talk to say they believe it is an actual Bigfoot. Because I mean,
Right.
as you said, rightly so, that in those times in the '60s, they couldn't make things look that good, that realistic. As you say, the Planet of the Apes films, you know, you could tell
Right.
that it was a costume, you could tell it was a kind of fake monkey face, and the Patterson Gimlin film is so good. Like those guys would be geniuses to like pull that off. I would think. You know, I know it is
They
controversial.
would have to be.
Yeah, for
Well,
me,
I'll tell
that's
you one
legit.
thing about that. Now, some people didn't realize this, and in Roger in Roger's side of things, one thing that became a red flag about Roger a year prior to them filming Patty. Well, we call it Patty because Patterson. Anyway, a year prior to that, Roger Patterson put out a book, and I don't remember the title, but I remember seeing the cover. And of course, the cover was a sketch drawing of a female, you know, female Sasquatch on the cover.
Really
And yeah, and what was interesting about that, yeah, just look up Roger Patterson's book. I don't remember the title, but you'll see it. It comes. I think the cover's yellow, and then there's another image of it, different color, but it does show, yeah, a female sketched Bigfoot on the cover or in the book. Period. And it was just interesting to see that because for a second it kind of makes you think. I said, a year before they filmed Patty, you know, he's got a drawing of a female Bigfoot on his book.
and did it
You
look
know,
like a patty? Did it look the same as?
uh, being that it was a sketch drawing, it was more just a straight up and right image. It didn't
Hmm.
have it didn't display no movement like it was walking. It was just a straight up sketch drawing on like a side profile. So
Interesting.
but it was interesting. I mean, it did make you think for a little bit. wait a minute, that's kind of odd,
Yeah.
He's got a book about Bigfoot with a female Bigfoot on the front. They film a female Bigfoot a year later, and so it scrambles your brain a little bit,
Yeah. It makes
but
you think.
the one thing I look back and ask myself, like, okay, let's entertain the thought that Roger Patterson did pull off one of the biggest hoaxes, you know, say he did. I'm not saying he did because I am, again, that footage is what got me involved,
Mm-hmm.
and got me, and I found evidence for myself. And I found things there, and there's too many. To dismiss it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had experiences too. I've seen things, but um, again, entertaining the thought that he did pull off a hoax. That's Roger Patterson. Till this very day, Bob Gimlin swears up and down, hey, he saw a Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
If Roger was behind that, doesn't mean that Bob Dylan knew anything about it. So we can't cast guilt on him if it was fake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I honestly believe. Again, this is just entertaining the fact. I'm not saying this is factual information. This is just the way, just my view on this. If it was pulled off to be a hoax, Bob Gimlin, I don't believe he had any clue on it.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
he swore up and down that hey, that's what he was there for.
Well,
And
the video has still not been able to be debunked to this
no,
day.
absolutely
And with
not.
the technology that we've got now, and we understand cameras and stuff more better now. You'd have thought they'd be able to debunk it, but they've
Right,
not. They've not. In fact, it's been enhanced, and you see the muscle movements clearer, and it for me. I hope it's real. I really do. I know there are
right.
some other good Bigfoot videos out there, but that one is obviously a very special one. I
Yeah,
hope it's real.
yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, you talking about there's other footage out there. There is some I believe that should have more attention drawn to them.
Hmm.
'Cause there is other footage I have seen. Uh, that I'm trying to think of the name. Um, I'm having a brain fart.
I do that every day. Don't worry about that, brother.
I have the video and the visual in my head, but I'm trying to remember.
I'm trying to think of
Uh,
some videos.
if you mention any names, I'll know it. But like the one in particular that I'm thinking of, the gentleman's son actually put out a book on it.
I know what one you mean.
The Freeman footage.
That's it. Let's
Yes,
go.
the Freeman footage. Yes,
That is
because
very interesting. Yeah.
because I had Mike Freeman. I had Mike Freeman as one of my guests in the
Oh
past.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and yeah, he put out some very fantastic detail. I mean, I haven't read the book, but he shared a lot of stuff with me about it.
Hmm.
Which it sounds pretty impressive. I mean, but prior to having him on the show and everything, and speaking to him, I mean, I've watched that video footage so much, and to me, it's impressive. I think it needs to be, a little bit more attention. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm. That is an impressive one. You're right. I
yeah.
think. Can you remember where that was filmed? That one? I've gone blank
Um,
on where that was filmed.
I mean, well, I have my
I,
phone turned off, but
yeah. No, sorry, man. Putting you on the
no,
spot.
it's all right. Yeah, I could have looked it
You've
up
got
real
you've got the
quick here.
Stacey Brown footage as well, which I find very interesting.
Yeah.
The Florida footage. Yeah, there's a
Oh
lot
yeah, for
out there,
sure.
man. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of good videos out there, but none quite like the Patterson Gimlin film where you got that you got that famous stance. That we saw the face,
Oh yeah.
and to be fair, I feel like if someone was to get that today. I mean, people are going to say, "Oh, that's AI." I don't know if they're going to accept it. I don't know if that's going to be enough evidence now. Because AI is
Yeah.
getting so good.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up because I've been in so much discussion with that,
Hmm.
regarding AI, and you know, that is a concern. Again, this is something else I speak about too, in my book. But AI is a big concern for
Absolutely,
for
because it's getting so good.
yeah. Well, I've here's the thing. Since AI has come out, now I have several AI apps on my phones and whatever in my computers. I use various AI apps to make my photos, for promos, thumbnails, and all this crap, I've actually used AI to create the cover of my book. So it's a great tool. It is, if you use it in a good way. The AI could be used in a very negative way,
Hmm.
and I'm looking at like what you were just talking about. To me, that's one of the negative ways it can be used because
Yeah.
there's, excuse me for saying this, but there's idiots out there, that don't have nothing better else to do, and they're sitting at home, well, I'm gonna create an AI video of Bigfoot and hoax people, they
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. It's not good, man. And the
And a
thing
lot of
is,
it,
you used to be able to tell with AI. You used to see a video, and I mean, I'm going back not long ago, so like 4 or 5 years ago, you'd see a video and you'd think, like, you wouldn't automatically think AI, and then AI
right?
started coming around because AI is still very new, right? Like for
Yeah.
us, and
Oh
then
yeah.
you would see videos that were clearly AI, and you'd be like, yeah, that's definitely AI. Some people would still believe it, but you could tell it was AI. And then now it's like, whoa, there's like videos of not necessarily Bigfoot and stuff like that, but like lions attacking people on safari and stuff like that. And you're like, is that real or not? Like you can't tell
Yeah.
sometimes. They're getting
Right.
so good.
Exactly.
So it's going to get to a point where, it's another year, another 2 years. It's going to be literally, it's going to be undeniable that you're not going to be able to know what it is. It's going to be very difficult.
Yeah. If you do your research on AI, now AI for what we know it now is different. AI is used in so many different ways. Technologies come and become so advanced over the years. And if you look at the history of AI has actually been out before me and you were born. So,
Yeah,
but
I've heard.
it was used in different ways. But look at how advanced it is. Now they can put it into computers, and I mean, telemarketers. We could be talking to an AI agent as far as we know.
Yeah, absolutely. It does make you wonder because obviously we,
Yeah,
we, we get AI now, and I know we have to pay for certain subscriptions and stuff like that if you want to get the real tools of AI now. But you
right.
can just get your basic AI for free right now.
Well,
To
yeah,
anyone can get it, and you think, why are they giving that to us for free? Why
yeah.
are people allowed to have that? And you can imagine that our governments, we know what our governments are like. They've definitely had this for many, many years. And how we don't know how many times that's actually been used in the past. Like I know this is a
It's like
conspiracy route, but
it's like, for example, I mean, I'm on your show right now. We're recording right now. But as far as we know, AI is probably documenting all this and extracting everything they can.
yeah,
Looking at, oh, okay, this guy's got this in his background. We're gonna go and examine his house and know what he's about.
yeah,
Because
man, we might be
you know,
AI.
I know. You
Well,
discovered me.
yeah, I've caught you. Well, I'd like to go to your experiences. I know you've been out a lot, in the field. What kind of
Yeah.
things have you seen and experienced yourself?
Well, as far as some of my earlier experiences, there's a couple different incidents I'll bring up. I won't get into the whole long, drawn out story of it because I've told it so many times. But to be honest with you, I myself, along with five others, we got to experience something that we didn't expect that ever happened. It was actually during one of our campouts back in 2014, May 3rd of 2014 to be exact. And yeah, we were out doing some exploring during the daytime, and just looking around up behind camp, and finding some interesting things. Um, well, apart from that, later that evening, we were hanging around camp, and like we are talking amongst ourselves, like, "Hey, you guys, are we going to go out at night?" Sure, I mean, this is we're here for that, and um, so yeah, after dinner or whatever, after it was in the evening, just before it got dark. We left out on foot and got down to the lake. And here I am. I'm starting to draw the story out already.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
cool, man. Yeah,
So,
as
but
much detail as you're happy to share.
oh yeah, absolutely. So we set out on foot from where our base camp was down to the lake. It was maybe almost a mile. You know, but we got down to the lake, and like I said, myself and the five others, six of us, and we decided to spread out around the lake. What the one thing about the lake? there's usually tons of people down there fishing. Not one soul was down there. So I'm glad we actually had the lake to ourselves. And the lake is a perfect place to hear vocalizations because you got a ridge over here and a ridge over there. You know, you got the hill ridges and that you pretty much almost surround that whole lake. So anything you hear is going to bounce from ridge to ridge, and you got to hear it pretty good. You know, so that's one of the reasons why we spread out around there. We all had radio communication and whatnot, and but, we're just relaxing. You know, we're down there just hanging out. You know, and then it's here it is getting later in the evening and it's getting dark, and you know one of the things that took place down there, we had a couple that were down from Vermont, Kimmy and Darren, and yeah, we were. Now I've heard Kimmy's vocalization before. She's pretty impressive, and for anyone who's ever or anyone who remembers Bobo from Finding Bigfoot,
Mm-hmm.
if anyone's ever heard of his vocalizations, Kimmy now she's just a little thing. She's I don't know 5 foot whatever 5'2", 3, 4. I don't know. She's just a small older woman, but she's got a set of lungs on her. But her lungs are very impressive. While we were spread out around the lake, you know, I radioed down to Kimmy. You know, 'cause I made sure everyone every two. Cause like I said, we were spread out in twos, and I made sure everyone had a radio. So I'm up closer toward the other end of the lake. I'm on the radio. Hey, Kimmy, because it was dead quiet. We weren't hearing nothing. It was so quiet. Kimmy, go ahead and give a vocalization, and everyone, after she does, everyone remains silent. Don't talk. Stand still. Blah blah blah. Sure enough, she gives off a vocalization. I hear it very good from my distance. And after she gave off a vocalization from the opposite side of the lake, within a few moments, maybe I don't know, I'm gonna say maybe 10 seconds from the opposite side of the lake, somewhere on the other side, we get a response. You know, but again, let me back up. I'll emphasize on her vocals. Again, for anyone who's ever heard Bobo, she's like the female version of Bobo. As small as she is, she does really good. I thought her vocalization was impressive. Because her voice, it put out there, it went some ways. So, and I will also clarify that anyone say, "Oh, all you heard was an echo." Echoes are known for that area because of the way the mountain ranges and the ridges run. But this was easily a good 10 seconds after she vocalized. You know, I feel confident that okay, something responded. You know, could have been a coyote. I don't know, but coming from it was on the other side of the ridge. The tone was off. Okay, all I know was, well, hey, we got a response. That was cool. So as the night went on, we didn't hear much more. We heard some movement up on the ridge up behind us. It could have been deer moving in, settling for evening. But it got to the point where like, wow, it's so late. We gotta head back to camp. So what do? We regrouped. We met up where Kimmy and Darren they stayed over. There was this little peninsula at the beginning of the lake that went out. And they were an older couple. Their mobility, is so and so. I didn't want them to have to walk any further than they had to. So they stood there, and there was a little bench that used to be there. But anyway, we met back up with them, and regrouped. And so, guys, just trying to head back to camp. So we're walking out from camp. And for the record, it's a little after midnight, or right around midnight for that, But we're walking out, headed back out to the main forest road, and it's all gravel. And we're working our way out. And while we're walking along, we're talking at normal tone. We're not trying to keep quiet whatsoever. And straight out in front of us, like I'm in front of everybody. They're right behind me in a single file line. And we're all talking. I'm listening to them chit chat and this and that, whatever, just miscellaneous chit chat, nothing serious. And then all of a sudden, I'm like looking up ahead. What the heck? I was shocked. There was a deer. It was walking right towards us. I just thought it was a strange thing because deer are normally spooked around there because people during the hunting season people hunt there. Like, wow, that deer is not scared of us. So it was maybe no more than 10 feet out in front of me, and it just like nonchalantly turned off and walked away to the woods. This is me thinking in my head. That's weird. I mean, I've walked up on deer before. We both got spooked because we weren't expecting it, but this is a different thing. Something about this situation already made me feel weird. Like, why is that deer not scared? That deer should have already ran off. It was walking right towards us. I know it heard us. I know it smelled us. So anyway, like I said, it just nonchalantly walked off. It turned off and went further into the woods, disappeared into the darkness. But right after we walked past to where the deer walked off, I'm looking up ahead, and now we have headlamps on, by the way. And so, of course, that's how we're seeing through the night. Something over on the other side of the forest road catches my attention. And I'm like, what the heck is that? Now, in the national forests out here, in random locations, there are these little yellow signs. And on these signs, they're posted in certain areas. And normally what they say on these signs is no vehicles beyond this point. And that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm seeing reflecting. I said, that's a weird place for one of those to be because it's all woods over there. How could any vehicle even go over there anyway? It wasn't no path or anything like that. And as I'm staring at it, it became more in focus because it blinked. And that's when I realized it was a set of eyeballs. What the heck? My buddy Tracy Arnold was behind me. I said, Tracy, what the hell is that? Because we couldn't make it out. We're just seeing these large yellow looking eyes that set kind of low. The first thought after I got his attention, the first thought that came to my mind was, is that a freaking mountain lion? Because, they are known for the area. Even though the authorities say we don't have them here, I've seen one. And other eyewitnesses have seen them throughout the county and surrounding counties and everything.
That's the same in the UK as well. There's big cats.
Is it like
here.
that where you guys?
Oh,
really?
absolutely. Yeah, there's big cats. Yeah.
But do the authority figures, the game war?
No, they'll tell us they're not there, but so many people see them, including my mother-in-law that saw a panther about 20 years, over 20 years ago. She saw a black panther. Yeah.
Mine was a black one too, the one I witnessed.
Oh, wow.
Just outside I could get into that later. But,
yeah, I'm going to write that down so I don't forget.
Yeah, because something you said is making me think about when you're talking about they say they're not there. That's something I want to talk about afterwards. But so yeah, back to the eye chime. Like I said, me and Tracy, we're looking at it together. The rest of the group are a little bit behind, not too far. Tracy, he's seeing the same thing I'm seeing, and all of a sudden, it zips off, like it runs off real quick, whatever. And Tracy, he gets the rest of the group. He gets the attention. Guys, get up here. We got some eye shine up here. Tracy knew what we were seeing was very strange and odd. He knew something was up with it. Like if it was a mountain lion, I definitely wanted to know. Like if it was a mountain lion, like are we getting that? Are we really that close? Because this was about between 30 to 40 feet. And so after we seen it zip off, we all regroup. We get into that spot, and we're in there. We're looking around. I'm scanning the tree line. Like I said, it was so dark, and 15, 20 feet out in front of you, it was so dark that it was after midnight. The cool air, the mountain air, kind of settled in, and it made the air a little bit more dense. And even though there's trees and bushes all through there, I'm scanning through there, looking around, and sure enough, I see the set of eye shine again. And at this point, it's the distance, I'm going to say another 30, 40 feet. But we're looking down at it, and I was like, what the heck is that? It's just, a couple of us had some bright headlamps on. What was not making sense to me is why weren't we seeing what we're looking at? I mean, yeah, the lights are, the eyes are reflecting off the lights. We're seeing these large yellow looking eyes. And fun fact about this subject that we're looking at, of course, we did estimate, okay, whatever this is small to begin with, we are looking down at it. We realized after seeing it had enough light, we realized there was enough, the ground sloped down several feet and then leveled back out. But we're looking at this, I'll say a 4-foot subject. I refer to them as subjects because we didn't know what we were looking at, And I'm looking down there, and whatever this is swaying side to side pretty swiftly. And I'll tell you what I thought about this later. It didn't dawn at me at this moment. You know, it's swaying side to side pretty swiftly, and large yellow-looking eyes. And I'm like, I know of every known species of wildlife that lives in these woods. I spent years in these woods, and it's not making sense. Now, I will tell you, a raccoon has bright yellow. Their eye reflection is bright yellow. It's like 4 feet tall. It's too big to be a. This would have to be a massive raccoon. Now, what was interesting about this, it stayed swaying side to side. 4 to 5 feet to the right of it, a second set of eye shine, same color, appeared. 2 feet taller than the 4 foot one. Okay, there's no way there's a 6 foot tall raccoon. There's no way. Like I said, I'm running my mind in my head. I'm running through every data I know about all those species. Like I said, raccoons the only thing that I would some owls, yes, some owls tend to have yellow, more red or green, but raccoons, I know every raccoon I've seen at night, their eyes reflecting yellow. And I was like, no, these ain't no raccoons, you know. So we got a 4 foot one and one that's standing 6 feet tall. Now, while that 4 foot one is still steadily swaying side to side, we're looking at this taller one now. Now it didn't display any movement, but it blinked. You can see the blink where his eyes closed a few times. Now that could have been because okay, it's looking at us and we got spray headlamps on. So, and while during this whole situation, like you figure, well, we're looking through there. We're scanning. I'm moving my head around, bobbing. Trying to get maybe a different angle, a different position to where trying to figure out what are we looking at here. I I will say this for the record. I share this all the time. Every time I tell the story, Bigfoot or Sasquatch was nowhere on my mind. I mean, I was on. We were all there for a Bigfoot hike, a Bigfoot camp out, and everything else. But this year just caught me off guard. You're like, it didn't make sense to me. You know, yeah, we're looking for Bigfoot, but again, at this point, Bigfoot was not on my mind. So while we're observing this, I'm scanning the area, looking around. You can see some of the thick bushes in the area right there off to the side. You can see trees. You can make them up. If you looked higher, you could see some of the trees. The trees and stuff stood out more. But something else caught my attention. After seeing these two and me scanning, the area, there was a third set of eye shine. But the third set of eye shine looked like it was literally on the ground. And I was like, what the heck? I was like, I don't know who heard me, but I said it loud enough. I said, guys, there's another set of eyes on the ground over there. And I stretched my arm out, pointing right down there. Look, look. But I stay focused on that. I'm looking at it, and my light's right on it. And all of a sudden, it starts moving. And when I say moving, it starts actually raising up and get taller and taller and taller. As if it was crouched down or laying down. I don't know. But I watched those set of eyes keep going up, up, up very slowly. And all of a sudden, they stopped. If they didn't go any higher. When I looked at that set of eye shine and compared it to the second one that was around 6 feet tall, this third one was 2 feet taller than the 6 foot one. And
Whoa.
so we're looking at a 4 foot subject, a 6 foot subject, now something we estimated to be around 8 feet tall. And I'm looking at it. Tracy sees it, and he's like pointing over at it. I'm not seeing nothing about it except for the eye shine, but you can see it from the height of the eyes. This was easily 8 feet tall from our estimation. Tracy, out of his own mouth, he's like, guys, we got squatches. Now, when he said this, I wanted to believe that. I really did. But it's like, I need something to confirm that. I can't just go along with that. I mean, he's assuming. I don't know if he saw something that I didn't see at that time. I don't know. He didn't say nothing. But he's like, guys, we got squatches. He was pretty enthusiastic about it. I was like, it made me feel excited, but I thought I couldn't jump on that train right yet.
Mm-hmm.
But then something happened. Something did change a little bit. That tall one, I for some reason I stayed focused I guess because it was taller. I don't know. But every now and then, yes, I would glance to see the other one's still moving side to side, and the other one's still hanging out there. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this one, and all of a sudden, it made this maneuver as if it went from looking straight at us, turned to its left to take a step or two, and then it turned back and looked back at us, looked eyes. When it made that maneuver, I think the lights, the angle of our lights caught it just right. Because what I saw next, I'm going to tell you, these were not no bears. I've seen plenty of bears in those woods. I've got a lot of encounters with bears. And for something that was 8 feet tall, and when it made that maneuver, all you see is these very wide, broad shoulders. The shape of very wide, broad shoulders, and a big round head that sat on those shoulders. No neck, just a round head that sat on these very wide, broad shoulders. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't say nothing after that. After Tracy said that and then it made that maneuver and did that, I was like, I was convinced. I was like, these ain't no bears. There's nothing else in these woods that will be that tall, big, and broad like that. And then afterwards, eventually they actually turned off. Like they all went further into the darkness and disappeared. They definitely blended in with the darkness at the night, because I think about that too sometimes, even to this day. Their hair must have been black. They really blended in. Either dark brown, really dark brown, or just all black, where they blended in with the night. It's the only thing that would make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So after they disappeared, we all kind of turned off. Like we started working our way back to camp. Of course, yeah, while we're camping, you could hear occasional little limb snap here and there. Chammy was the only one that ever expressed any bit of nervousness. She's like, "Oh my God, guys, they're following us." No, they're just walking through the woods like any other animal would, or whatever, So, but we made it back to camp, and we were still talking about it. Now there was two of us. Again, I know you keep hearing me talk about Tracy, but me and Tracy were the only ones that had. Well, we weren't the only ones that had backpacks, but we were the only ones that had night vision. We each had our own little handheld night vision binoculars. During that whole situation, not once did we ever think about pulling them out to get a better observation, see what we're looking at. A lot of people say that, oh, if you had a camera, why didn't you take a picture? Blah blah blah. These are people that say that never been in the situation,
Mm-hmm.
or any encounter. You're mesmerized. You're just caught off guard, or you just simply caught up in the moment. You don't realize, oh, hold on, Mr. Bigfoot. I got some equipment I'm going to introduce you to. Stay put, buddy. No, you don't think, though. You just don't have time to think.
Mm-hmm.
You just so caught up in the observation of what's going on. That's where your focus is. Your focus ain't over the equipment that you might have with you. People don't realize that. People don't understand that. But
Mm-hmm. You're seeing something amazing.
Huh?
You're seeing something amazing at that moment,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were kicking ourselves in the butt because we realized it after we got back to camp that we had those devices in there, But, it comes with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of other stories from other people, so we're not the only ones that have to.
Oh, no, I've done it myself. But going back when I was 27, me and my mother-in-law saw what we can only describe as some sort of UFO. Basically,
Ooh.
there was three objects, and they were constantly changing shape. And I won't go. Well, I'll tell you what happened. So we was in my flat in Brentwood in the UK, and basically these three objects came out from a forest that was just opposite where I lived. We was on a fourth floor of a block of flats, and we were the top floor. And me and my mother-in-law were just chatting, and it was a beautiful summer's day, and all of a sudden these objects came out of the forest, and they were only like small, like the size of a basketball, but there was three of them, and they were like constantly changing shape and moving around each other. And we were watching these things for like 5 minutes, whatever it was, but we had a good look, and we couldn't work out what it was. We were like, are they balloons? And going through all these different things, and all of a sudden they just shot off into the atmosphere, all three of them. And we were like, what the heck have we just set up? Nothing does that, What was that? It was an incredible thing to see. They were like living organisms. I don't know what they were. They were it was wild. We say UFO, but we don't know what it was. And I had my iPhone in my pocket at the time. didn't even think about getting it out and recording what I was seeing because we were just so in the moment and seeing this amazing whatever it was.
Wow.
So I totally understand that, man. With, when
Yeah.
you don't think of you don't think of getting your cell phone out at the time,
No.
or whatever you've
Um,
got to record.
the the add on to that situation, um, a year later, same section of woods just around the corner. I was camping out alone. There, this area it's all primitive camping. It's not a campground. Although it's national forest, it's a first come first serve. If you find an available spot, hey, it's yours. So during the hunting season of 2015, in the month of November, I was camping out. I had my Blazer parked there. My shotgun leaning up against my Blazer, and nobody else. Surprisingly, usually during the hunting season, there's people all over. Every campsite's full of campers. They bring their RVs in there. Usually the old timers they'll come settle in for over a week or two. But to my surprise, that particular year, nobody was in that area. I was in that small camp spot by myself, and it was nice and quiet. But it got to the point where I was sitting there. I had the fire going, of course. And it's around 10 o'clock at night, and I'm just sitting there, not even hearing the bugs and the insects make their noise. It was so quiet, and I was just so wide awake, and I'm not sleepy. I'm not ready to go in for my tent for the night. So what do? I was like, well, I reached forward from where I'm sitting down. The fire's over here, and I reached forward on the back of my vehicle where I had my spotlight sitting. I reached forward, grab my spotlight, and stand up. And now for the record, I didn't turn my spotlight on yet. I walked outside of the camp to the forest road, and I walk out into the middle of the forest road and stand there in complete darkness. I do this on occasions. I don't know why. It's something I started doing, and when I camp with others, I get them to do the same thing. I say, guys, come out here. Just don't turn no lights on. Just come out here. I don't know. It's something I developed. It's kind of peaceful in a way. As long as you know where you're going, come out and walk. Stand there. Stop. Listen. Don't move. Just listen to the night sound. If there is any.
Hmm.
But in this particular case, I stood there. I'm standing there. Relaxed, so calm, looking up and down the road. I can't see. Still look. I don't know. It's just night observation from whatever. It's like I don't even know how to describe it. Again, it's peaceful, and you're not hearing not one little sound. It's so quiet you could hear probably a chipmunk in the woods across, far. But there's chipmunks everywhere through there because the owls love them. Chipmunks and field mice. They're pretty crazy around there. But all of a sudden I was like, okay, I stood there long enough in the dark, and I'm gonna decide to pull the trigger on my spotlight, and I started to my left. As soon as I turned the spotlight on, just beside the tree line, you, you could hear a deer. I spooked a deer. That light triggered, like, oh crap. I was like, oh, there goes a deer. Like you get run off real quick. I was like, cool, I spooked the deer. And from my left to my right, I start panning very slowly, looking through the tree line. Tree line was only 20 feet out in front of me from where I was standing. So I spooked the deer, and I'm panning along. And when I got between the 1 and 2 o'clock position, I stopped because immediately what I heard next inside that tree line. I don't know how far inside the tree line, but it sounded like it was very, very close. All I heard was these large, heavy bipedal steps. Every step it took had a crunch and a thump behind it. And when I heard this, my heart felt like it was really sticking up into my throat, like pounding away. Like I almost couldn't breathe. I felt so intimidated. I was very vulnerable. Like, whoa, what is this? I was like, I'm like, my arm stuck out there, froze. I'm looking in the tree line, not seeing nothing, but I could hear what's in there. Whatever it is, it's got some mass and weight to it. Again, every step it took had It wasn't a slow walk, but it wasn't fast either. And I started backing up. I was literally backing up, looking over my shoulder, to make sure I was going to walk into the ditch or the trees. I was making sure I was going back to my camp. And with my opposite hand that was free, I was reaching down with to my belt loop where my keys were hanging, make sure, pushing the button, make sure my vehicle was unlocked, just in case I had to jump in there and take off. But I got back into camp, and it wasn't long. But once I got back into camp, all of a sudden, the feeling that I was feeling out there after hearing that, I calmed right down. Like, I ended up throwing a couple more logs in the fire to make the fire a little bit bigger to grow. But I was relaxed. I became relaxed all of a sudden. And because I came to the realization, whatever that was walking away from me, if it meant any harm or if it was aggressive, it had every opportunity to come run out and sack me like a football player.
Mm-hmm.
But it was going away from me. Now, the one thing yeah. I mean, like I said, it wasn't that there was not a visual, but to hear what I heard,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know for a fact, I can tell you, God's honest truth. If people want to say that's a bear, you haven't been around bears like I have. I woke up to bears outside my tent. I've seen bears drop out of trees and run off. Bears, because of the padding on the feet, they're very quiet. You might hear them if they're close enough, but to hear them walk, a bear is a quadruped. Yeah, they are known for standing up and walking short distances, but you're not going to hear a bear on, crunch and bump with their weight.
Mm-hmm.
This was not a bear. I can promise you that. I know the sounds of wildlife. I've studied and observed them for years. And I've had so many experiences with bears. Here in Virginia and all along the whole East Coast, black bears are notorious. And I'm going to tell you for the record, I've had so many people tell me when they want to see tracks and post tracks on social media, to tell them what it is, they don't want to believe it's a bear. They want to think it's a Bigfoot. Oh, we don't have bears in our area. Have you ever seen them? Nope, they're not here. Well, just because you don't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. Because black bears are very elusive as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'd be surprised. Even hunters that go hunting for them, they got to run here in Virginia and I guess other states where it's legal. They run dogs to get the bears. Bears usually. If you're out in the woods hiking, it's amazing that I have seen the bears that I have seen. Because most of the bears I have seen, by the time I notice them, they're already going in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm. They want to stay away from people.
Exactly. They can smell you from many miles away.
Mm-hmm.
Bears have a strong, keen sense of smell. Again, they can smell you from many miles away. People don't realize that. So, I can tell you, this was on 2 feet. It was bipedal.
Interesting, man.
So,
and that was the same area, exactly the same area that you had the encounter the year before, with the
just around the corner. Yeah,
Whoa.
a year later.
Man.
Now, was that? Here's another question. There's a couple things I'll present. I'll talk about this on. If that Sasquatch, assuming it, entertain the thought that it was a Sasquatch, was that one of the ones that we encountered a year before? Well, this one here in 2015, yes, I heard it walk away. We did not hear movement from these ones when they disappeared, except for maybe a limb snap, or two. Thing is, we went back in 2014. The next day, we went back to that spot. We did a height comparison. Okay. After seeing the ground was soft and spongy. There was grass. There was a lot of thick bushes. There was trees, but the ground was coated and it was grass. And it was lumpy and soft. So anything that stepped through there, you're not going to hear it. It's soft. Got a lot of cushion, in the ground. Well. So perhaps whatever I heard in 2015, I could walk in. I walked into that area numerous times, and yeah, it's usually the ground is usually it's not flat. It is uneven ground in some areas there, and of course, the leaf litter covers the ground most of the time in that spot. So again, I mean, I don't know if there was any relation between what I experienced in 2015 versus 14. But here's the other thing: I question myself, and I ask myself to this day, because it is said or believed, I should say, that Sasquatch uses deer as a food source.
Mm-hmm.
So, was all right. Look at 2014. There was a deer. There was a deer walking right towards us just prior to having our situation. Then right after we walked up, where that deer walked off, up ahead was that first set of eye shot. Were they stalking that deer? Were they getting ready to make a kill or attempt or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
2015, there was a deer I scooped up with my spotlight. And when I panned over there and whatever that was walked away from me, again, entertaining the thought that that might have been a Sasquatch. Well, what else was it going to be? It was on 2 feet. It was very heavy. What else is roaming those woods that heavy? On
Mm-hmm.
2 feet.
Yeah.
So it's something I question. Did we interrupt the hunt? Were they about to make the kill? I don't know. Now, throughout different other areas of that national forest, I have come across a lot of deer kills and carcasses. Full remains and the skeletal remains. Of course, free out of all the remains I've ever found. I know the skull, the front of the snout of the deer, has been ripped off. I've had some people say, "Oh,
Whoa.
that's mountain lion." I said, "Well, I don't know. That mountain lion usually go for the back of the neck or the throat."
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know. Now, I always found that interesting. I can tell you for a fact, 3 of them, the snouts were ripped off. I mean, maybe coyotes. I don't know. We have a lot of coyotes in the area. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Uh,
You wouldn't have thought they'd go for the face, if they're if
yeah.
they're if
I
they're
mean,
eating.
I don't know what did that, but it's interesting. It was just one of my observations where again the snout of the skull was ripped off.
Interesting.
Torn off. Yeah.
I mean, you said
Yeah.
as well that the first time you had the encounter, you saw the deer like it wasn't scared of you guys, and maybe
Exactly.
maybe that's
That's what I
because
thought was odd.
it's more scared of the Sasquatch that are possibly hunting it. You know?
Yeah, but it was like I said, when it was walking towards us before it turned off and wandered off nonchalantly. I mean, it was like walking like it was relaxed. That's what threw me off.
Yeah.
Why is it just like I don't know? It's like if it did feel threatened for some reason, but
Hmm.
yet when we see what we saw on the other side of the road up ahead, you know, it's like it was I don't know. That's something I question to this day. Was it watching it? Was it stalking it? Was it preparing for something?
Yeah.
That's the question that I keep asking myself. There's that possibility. So I
That
can't
is
make
an
it.
interesting
Yeah,
encounter, man. So in 2014, after you had that evening where you saw these 3 possible Sasquatch, how
yeah.
quickly did you kind of say, okay, I think we've seen Bigfoot here for you?
Well, well, like I said, during the observation and everything, like I said, after seeing the tall one, they all seemed like they turned around, turned off, and
Hmm.
because we no longer saw the eyes. It's like they turned away, and I believe they just went about their business. And the other thing I like to share about that too is like, yeah, we caught them off guard. It's like I don't know. It's like they were. I don't know if they were expecting us, or you think they would have heard us coming because again, we were talking that we weren't trying to be quiet. Our goal, our mission was to head back to camp. And but during that situation, while they were looking at us as we were looking at them, I just felt like they were curious. Like hey, these guys ain't supposed to be back here. This is late. This is after midnight, and it's like okay, are these other Sasquatches coming up here? No, they're people. So I don't know. I just felt like we were curious of them as they were of us. Because at first, we didn't realize what we were seeing. I mean, and then like I said, Sasquatch, Bigfoot wasn't even on my mind when we started noticing. But everything changed when I saw that shape and silhouette of the tall one. You know,
Oh yeah,
so
and the
you know,
silhouette it was like the standard Bigfoot.
yeah. I mean, looking at the front view of it, it was, you cannot mistaken what you saw when it turned to the side and looked back. The light, I mean, you could clearly see, you know,
Wow.
you know, I mean, your average football player wouldn't even have nothing on these guys. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, even with shoulder pads on, yeah, this was clearly much larger,
Yeah.
wider, I should say, easily at least a minimum of 4 feet wide, easily.
Wow.
So,
8 foot tall and 4 feet wide. That is wild, man.
I mean, people 4 feet don't seem like a big, wide width, but
Yeah.
put that on a bipedal figure, yeah, that's a different
Yeah.
story.
That's big. That's a
Yep.
giant. That is big, man. And I mean, the one that you said was low down. I mean, you hear the spider crawl. People talk about these things being able to get down in the spider crawl position. It sounds
Yeah.
very much like it could have been doing that. I
That
mean,
thought has crossed my mind. Yeah, that thought has crossed my mind because, like I said, when I first noticed it, it literally looked like it was on the ground. I mean, there was a lot of thick bushes right there, but it was like like it was underneath or either underneath or right behind those bushes.
hmm
And when I'm staring at it, I mean, that's like it was odd. Like, and then all of a sudden I'm watching it and it starts moving upward. Like as if it was either laying there, like you mentioned, or really crouched down very low. But
Wow, man.
yeah,
I mean, I know you saw the Patterson Gimlin film and that was a big kickstart for
oh
you, but was
right.
that like seeing them creatures in that moment? Was that like undeniable, obviously, that these things are real for you, you know?
Well, here's a fun fact about my acknowledgement on Bigfoot. Long before this, of course, a lot of my research started here in Virginia, but I've ventured up into Pennsylvania and spent even in present time here. I've done a lot of research and I've done some investigating in various locations. One particular area, some of my early research took place in Bedford, Pennsylvania, at the Shawnee State Forest, Shawnee State Park, and I have come across stuff up there that kind of made me realize, or like I've seen tracks. I found tracks out there exploring around up there, and one of the things I've observed up there too, which I thought was very odd. Now I know hunters do this, where hunters like here in Virginia, hunters will go up a forest road and dump their deer kill or their carcass off. Especially poachers, they only get what they want of it and leave the rest of there to rot. Well, there's one particular area which was nowhere near a roadway, and it was out in the middle of the woods. Was this pile of old deer bones, deer carcasses? Some of them are old, where the moss and the earth were starting to take over. But there was a cluster of them in a pattern in one spot, like it was a kill zone or a dump spot. That there I found very interesting. Like, what is doing that? You know, it was just very odd. But so, well, I guess what I'm getting at, I honestly feel like I became a knower
hmm
before I've ever had any kind of major experience. So, I mean, there's been other incidents where, walking deep in the woods, you know, going up a deep trail that narrows, that's full of thick cover around you. I've had a large rock thrown at me one time. It was about the size of a good football size stone. You know,
Whoa.
Yeah, that happened. I wasn't alone. I actually had there was a girl that I was dating at the time. She was with me, and that was interesting because we had just crossed the creek. Because where the trail leads up, there's a creek. You got to cross the creek to continue with that trail going. We had just got up on the other side of the creek and got back onto the trail on the other side. Just started walking up, and all of a sudden, boom, lands right between the two of us. And we look at each other, or basically our jaws about dropped to the ground. Like, what the? We're looking back where we came from. Oh, it's so thick over there. You can't see nothing. I don't know how far that rock came from to begin with, you but that was another incident in the same national forest, but many miles away from our 2014 encounter.
hmm
So,
Well, that
uh,
again, that's classic Sasquatch activity, the
oh
stone
yeah,
throwing, and they always seem to miss, like they get close, which is kind of wild. The accuracy seems to be,
I
really good.
believe. Now, there's other reports I've heard from other individuals. That there's been rock throwing activity from other people that experienced things, especially on horseback.
hmm
Um, Real quick, there's one lady I've met and got to know. She takes people out on horseback to train them on how to ride horses off trail. Well, there was an incident where they were still on a trail, and she said you could hear it coming through the trees, like it was flying through the trees at a distance. And they had a very large rock. It came landing right behind one of the horses, and it never hit none of them. It just landed right behind one of the horses. But she said prior to it landing right behind them, you could hear. She said you could hear, you know,
Whoa.
you know, yeah. So I was like, and that's about almost an hour and a half south of here, So,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Interesting, man. Have you
absolutely.
have you had any other visuals of these creatures?
Other than that, in 2014, now there was one incident. I can't really. This was very inconclusive. I don't really speak about this one, but there was a time where I was driving down the forest road at night, coming back, driving back, headed back to my camp. There's a little country store I used to drive out to at night when I camped by myself out there. Like if I want to go check in or go get any little bit of Wi-Fi, I'll ride up to the store. And but anyway, I was coming back one night. I'm driving real slow, taking my time. I had a lot of wildlife cross the road up in that night. I had raccoons, coyotes, maybe it's a couple deer. And I'm riding along, and up ahead, I see a set of eye shine off to the side. And it kind of disappeared a little bit, came back. And then all of a sudden, there's this big pine sapling, or small pine tree. And all of a sudden, I seen what looked like the shadow or the shape of something dip down and turn around and go off in the distance. And I mean, like I said, I can't really say what the heck that was. I mean, it could have been one, standing off the edge of the road. But I don't know. I don't really talk about that one too much because it just there wasn't enough detail for me to really share on that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I do recall that's what it looked like to me at the time.
Yeah.
Driving down the road. So, but yeah, there's a lot of wildlife out there. I mean, pretty much almost every other species you can think of. I mean, we have bobcat. I've captured bobcat on camera. Hopefully, one of these days I'll capture one of those mountain lions out there.
Yeah, man,
But
absolutely. I
of
mean
course,
that
Bigfoot would be better.
yeah, if you can get a Patterson Gimlin style Bigfoot film, that'd be amazing.
Yeah,
But that does sound very much like a Bigfoot what you saw there, because as you will know, most people see these creatures whilst driving along the road. I don't know
yeah,
why that is, but that seems to be like a big percentage of sightings when
yeah.
people are driving.
One thing that did confirm that there was something there was that tree that whatever it was next to. You could see the limb like kind of drop down and move, like it was like either be in front of it or behind it when it took off. I don't know, whatever. But
Interesting.
yeah, yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
man. So,
Um,
what a difficult question. But what do you
mm,
think these creatures are, in your opinion? Because I know obviously in the Bigfoot world it's very much divided in some cases where some people will say there's a supernatural element to these creatures. Some people will say they're just flesh and blood. I kind of put myself in the middle because I talk to all different sorts of people like you do as
oh
well.
yeah.
What are your thoughts? What are your opinions on what these creatures are?
Well, I like to believe that I keep an open mind, but based off of all the experiences that I've had, vocalizations, if we could add in and contribute the structure, tree structures and formations, if we want to throw that in there too, I mean, I've seen all kinds. I found all kinds of interesting things out in the woods that make you think otherwise. Could people be doing this, or was this weather related, or was something by being excuse me opposable thumbs creating this structure, woven trees, teepee structures, a very large, massive tree structure type things. I'm not talking about little things that can't rule out a human. I'm talking about big massive trees made with that form teepee. Little things like that. Again, back to the vocalizations and hearing the whoops and various screams and yells and howls. A lot of what I experience in here, I cross compare it to a known species, and I find a lot of similarities in this. And a lot of people don't want to say this or believe in this, but I don't care how human they look. I don't care if they got feet like a human. this is my honest personal opinion. And again, there'll be very few that agree with me on this, and many more that don't. And I'll get into that, but I honestly believe they are some type of primate. I'm not saying they are a chimpanzee. I'm not saying they're a gorilla. I believe they're an unclassified, undiscovered primate of some sort. And to kind of touch base on that, well, people say, "Oh, they're not primate. They're humans." Okay, that's fine, but you don't realize, scientifically speaking, you're contradicting yourself because us as humans, we're considered human primates. Then you have the other side of primates. You have non-human primates. Okay, you have chimpanzees that are primates. You have gorillas that are primates, baboons and orangutans. And so many more. And let's study them. What are they known for doing? Why do they make vocalizations? Why do they whoop? Why do they throw rocks? They do all the stuff that we're contributing that Bigfoot's known for doing. But we forget about that, or people don't want to look at that side of things. It's like politics. They don't want to see what the good man, this guy's doing. He's doing all this good, but everyone hates him because they're told to hate him. It's like believing something. We're not going to believe this because we're told that ain't what it is. People have a twisted belief system without looking into the facts. And when I say looking into the facts, I'll look at the things. Like I said, I do a deep cross comparison on everything that I experience, everything you hear, all the reports that you gather. It's just you want to change your stance because there's a large audience that says this, but based off of all the experiences, it's like all the data says keeps pointing towards this. How can you stray away from that? So, but with that being said, now there is a lot of other things that are happening out in the forest in various locations. Things I've heard about, things I've heard people talk about. I never thought I would experience anything. For example, now people want to say it's Bigfoot related. I can't say it's Bigfoot related. For example, I have witnessed and seen strange lights in the woods, unexplainable strange lights. The first set of strange lights I seen, this took place 2 years ago in Pennsylvania, and I was with the girl I was living with at the time up there, and we were in the area. We were sitting observing this area after having a couple tree knocks because I gave off a vocalization. It was dead quiet while we were hanging out, and I gave off whoop whoop straight out in front of where I was. Right after I gave off those whoops, you clearly hear wood on wood, bang. Whoa. And then she was down below sitting on a small boulder. Straight out in front of her was the second tree knock. I said, "Did you hear that?" I'm standing up on one of the boulders, I'm like 3 or 4 boulders back. She's, "Yeah, I'm looking at eye shine." I said, "What?" From my position, I couldn't see no eye shine. So I came down, I sat beside her. We're sitting there. I said, "Where?" Straight out in front of us. Keep looking right over there. Now I started seeing things, but what I was seeing was not eye shine. I don't know. Maybe she thought she saw eye shine, but what I saw was these little flashing, glittering lights. They look like stars in the woods. Now, for the record, this is in the month of January, 2023. Here in January, it's very cold, extreme cold, especially up there. These were not lightning bugs. These colors of lights that I seen flashing, they resembled stars in a cluster. They were blue, red, maybe a couple of yellows. And I was like, "Do you see those the flashing lights in there? They look like stars." She said, "I've seen all that too." Now, she came up and said this. She believes that it's Bigfoot putting out energy. Now, that was her belief system. I'm not going to say, no, okay, that's BS. I don't know that. And I'm thinking to myself, she really don't know that, but that's her belief system. So there's no data that supports that. But it was interesting.
Yeah, man.
Because we observed that in the area on a couple different occasions. And To move up a few months, excuse me, I was in a different area, probably about maybe 20 to 30 miles away, camping with another group of people. One particular night while we were there, just, again, it's just an observation, away from the opposite side of the camp, in the trees away from us. I walked out there and I'm seeing four brown, bluish, dim lights. Some of them about the size, well, a little bit larger than a softball. So now, I guess in most cases these would be called orbs, but they were stationary. They weren't moving. I was watching them for a good while. I was make sure I was like, what the heck? Is there a house over there or something? I don't know. Which I later learned there's no houses. You gotta go way beyond those woods, and then there's a field, but still no houses. But I went and I walked back. I said, guys, there's some weird lights I'm looking at over here in the woods. By the time we get back, they weren't there. They had dim. I don't know. They just up and gone. There was four different lights. They were like kind of up and down. You know, there was four of them. They weren't in a straight row, but they were like kind of. So I said, that's weird. You know, I didn't know what to think of it. You know, it was an observation. That's all. You know, it was an observation, and so that was in Pennsylvania. Well, about a year ago, here in Virginia, during one of our group campouts, which we do every May and September, and we're going to be returning to this location here in May. Well, there was one night we were out there, and we've been out exploring at night, but we're on our way back to camp. You know, we had a couple people stayed back at the base camp. There was a small group of us that went out, and we're walking along the forest road, just working our way back. My buddy David, he's up ahead of me a little ways. He's like, Daniel, there's a light over in the woods. I'm like, man, I'm seeing it as I'm walking up to him. The heck is that? Around the way I describe it, it was like you mentioned something about the size of a basketball. This was at a fairly decent distance, probably a good 40 feet or so out, and it's a round ball of white light. What was interesting about this, it did not illuminate nothing around it, and it did not project a beam like if it was a spotlight, flashlight, or anything like that. Saw it for a good few seconds, and all of a sudden, it went out like that. And
Whoa.
yeah, immediately, and just thinking that I'm thinking maybe somebody's over there or something. I pull out my thermal right away. I started scanning the area, looking over there. I didn't pick up no heat signatures or nothing whatsoever. Dave was like, stay right here, keep looking, watching, whatever. He walked up a little further. He didn't even turn the lights on. He walked up on the road in darkness, pulled out his thermal, trying to capture it from another angle. You know, he didn't pick nothing up either. But that was something we documented this. Although I have a camcorder, I wasn't recording during this session, which I can't stand that because I had my camera walking up, and I thought it was recording at the time, but I had the record off. It was on pause, and because I'm holding it like I'm recording, but focused on that, and I was like, "Damn it, David, I wasn't recording." I don't know you, but it's whatever. But
You
that's
hear
something
that
we
so
observed
much, man.
here.
That happens so often.
So yeah, we don't know what that was, And now there's been Bigfoot sightings in this area. There's been
Hmm.
Bigfoot sightings and other strange things. As we started to look more into this area, started researching the location. We wanted to know the history of this location, on which you can't find much online. But the whole general surrounding area that has a history. Uh, and I sent this to David after I found this certain piece of information. But the name of the area that we're not the general area we camped at and explored, but the town itself, it's called Falks Run, Virginia. Fulks, Falks Run, Virginia. Well, there's a lot of folklore and a lot of legends that I read about online. There is history of Bigfoot. They mentioned. I was surprised. I read about Bigfoot online about this area. But strange lights in the woods is one of the I came across. And I said, David, apparently we're not the first one to see strange lights in this area. So what are they? I mean, yeah, you do your research on it. There's a lot of natural phenomena. People say, oh, swamp gas. Well, nah, this is not a wet, marshy area.
Hmm.
We don't understand what it is, but
Interesting, man.
yeah, we still talk about it. We still talk about it. We share it with other people a lot.
Yeah, because it's difficult to put this stuff with like the Bigfoot phenomena as well, because yeah, unless you see a Bigfoot turn into one of these lights, it's hard to put them together, obviously. But some people do, as you say, because obviously there is sometimes Bigfoot activity happening, and then people see the lights like straight after, for example, or before. So that's why
Right.
I think they get put together. But there's a lot out there, man. There's obviously there's Bigfoot out there, but there's also a lot more other stuff going on out there as well. That is so
Yeah.
interesting, man. I've heard the lot. I've heard people see like different colored lights that are not
Yeah.
like fireflies or anything like that. They'd say they're definitely not that, and they're different colors: red, blue, green, and like some people say they're like fairies. I mean, who knows what
Yeah,
they
I've
are?
heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, could it be something
um,
like that?
well, that's interesting because I believe in the possibility of fairies. That's
Hmm.
something I'm definitely not going to dismiss. Because there's all kinds of critters and creatures and all kinds of things out there.
Yeah.
There's things out there. There's a lot we don't know. I mean, we
Hmm.
assume so much, but you know, um, yeah, again, that's part of keeping an open mind and not dismissing everything. I mean, there's a part of us that wants to put a lot of what we experience out there in the paranormal spectrum. But for example, some of the other things that took place at camp alone, we've had our radios fully charged, brand new radios, fully charged, just go dead and not work.
Yeah.
Um,
So you
my
hear
buddy,
that all the time. Yeah.
yeah, David over at his camp, he's got his main tent and he's got his other setup to where his cooking station is, but he's got all his equipment in there. He's got, he had an MP3 player that turned on its own. Weird things like that, and that was in the daytime. You know, you know, we just thought, okay, this is interesting. So what did we do? I have these round ghost balls. They're known as cat toys, but I had a few of them set up at camp one time. I didn't think nothing of them. What the heck? It was one night we were sitting around a campfire at night. We were all talking and hanging out, right? Everybody that was at the camp there, and David's wife Melissa. She's like, Daniel, one of your lights are going off. I think, what? I'm looking over. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, there was no wind, no move. Those things got to be moved, to be
Yeah.
set
They
up.
don't go off easy, those things, right? They don't go off
What?
easy.
No, no, they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to literally pick it up and like move it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it; it's sitting on top of one of the pieces of wood over there by the wood pile, and it's going off. I was like, crap. By the time I got up, wanted to go look at it, it stopped. I was like, my camcorder wasn't too far off, but I ended up bringing it later and hoping it would go off again. It didn't. But the next night, it did it again. This time I was prepared for it. I did capture it on camera that time. So, yeah. So, I don't know what's going around there. Here's another thing I'll share about this area, too. I failed to mention. There are foundations to old homesteads in these areas. We found two of them so far. Supposedly
Hmm.
there's more. And so that's what David's wife Melissa. I'm trying to look into it. You have to actually go to certain places to look in your records. You won't find information about the history of settlers or any homesteads in this area. I mean, we want to know. I mean, apparently, did people live here? Did people die here? Kind of say what happened here, what took place here. I mean, this is all part of the national forest, and it's the area we camp in. It's part of a field. And if you look on a map, it's titled as a campground. But it's a primitive spot. There is a fishing lake. You get from our campsite to where the lake is over 3 miles. We've hiked it several times. Just going up one way. I don't know, just a lot of strange stuff that took place there. I mean, David's his action camera. It's like a GoPro. You know, one of the times we were up there, he picked up an odd, weird sound. That it's like I don't know, something made it give off this weird buzzing sound. When he was going back through listening to the audio and the camera footage, yeah, he pointed it out to us, so it was weird. Um, it what the closest thing it could resemble is if it was being interfered by here electrical wires. There's no electricity in this area. There's no power lines that run through this area. That's what makes it interesting. There's no interference for nothing to be doing that.
Hmm.
Just around camp alone, my EMF readers went off a few times checking stuff. So and I don't know. There's strange stuff around there.
There seems to be a lot of similarities with like Bigfoot research sometimes to like
Right.
paranormal teams investigating a haunted house and stuff like that. Quite sometimes the same kind of things happen, like the knocks, the
Oh yeah.
sounds. It's interesting, man.
Well, my hoodie that's laying over here on my bed, it's my black Virginia Bigfoot hoodie. The last night of camp. Now, everyone had already left early that day. This was the last night of camp. The only ones left there was me, David, and his wife. And we're sitting there. I didn't say that. I didn't react to what happened that night. I told David about it the next day. We're sitting there. I'm facing them. They're facing me. And I'm just trying to slouch down in the very same chair that I'm sitting in right now. This is my camper chair. I'm sitting here. It's very comfortable. That's why I'm using it right here. But I'm slouched down. It's quiet, kind of mesmerized, looking at the fire. And all of a sudden, I had these two tugs. Like somebody grabbed the back of my hoodie. And I didn't move around. I didn't look. I just felt it. And I had my phone with me. I don't know why. I just turned the camera on and did a selfie. I did a few of them. Just the entertaining. Like, oh, maybe I'll pick something up behind me. I did, and nothing showed up in my camera, but it was interesting that I felt that. And I told David about it. And I was like, David, I didn't know how to react. I was froze about it. I was like, did I really just feel that? Kind of thing. So I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah, man.
So I mean, I felt those kind of things years ago in a house trailer I used to live in. I don't know. You don't go looking for the paranormal. It seems like it comes to find you.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's normally when you're not sort of expecting it. I find, these things
Yeah.
happen when you're not thinking about it and you're not in that zone. Something weird happens and you're like, what the heck? I mean, yeah, man. I mean, people say haunted houses are the place to look for ghosts and stuff, but
Yeah.
forests seem to be. Forests are very magical. There's a special feeling in a forest, and there's a lot going on in forests, man. I
I
think
mean,
that,
I never expected to have that kind of thing happen out there. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, my biggest thing is I love experiencing what we've been experiencing. It's the coolest thing ever. I mean, for some people, it may not be no big deal, but the little things is what excite me sometimes.
absolutely.
But the thing that bugs me is like for one thing, when we're out there camping and investigating and just exploring, we're filming out there too because we're filming what we do because all that filming content is going to the new show that we're doing that we're filming that will be streaming. It's getting ready to stream very soon here on Fox and TV Network. But we're boots on the ground. We don't have a production crew out there. We're out there filming what we do. It's all raw footage,
Hmm.
and I just wish, like I've talked to David about this. I said he's got cameras too and stuff like that. But when we go out there, he's toting along. He's got his German Shepherd with him, and we love having her. Her name is Lula. Excuse
They're
me.
cool dogs, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons we love having her out there is to watch her reactions to things. Sometimes she picks up on things, and what's she picking up on? Like we
Yeah.
don't hear nothing, we don't see nothing. But she does. Dogs, they got that keen sense. So
Hmm.
they know things.
100%.
Yeah, they know things that we don't. So
They see things that we don't see sometimes. Yeah. Dogs and
absolutely.
cats and children as well. They seem to be at, that open stage where they just see things, and especially a dog,
Yeah,
you'll see him staring at something that's, you can't see, and you're like, what the heck is he staring at, man? He's seeing
Right.
something. He's reacting
Yeah,
to something.
they say cats do. I've seen videos where like cats are looking at something. What they
Yeah.
like in people's houses, like they're like caught, like they're looking up in the air or something. What are they seeing?
hmm
How are they?
hmm And they're following
Strange.
it. They're following. They're sometimes following something. You can't. It's weird, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very
Have
mysterious. But
have you seen a ghost or anything like that? Have you ever had an experience like that?
that's something I can't say I've seen. That's you know,
Not
I
yet.
mean, yeah, not yet. Exactly. Um, I don't know. We'll see how things happen in the future, but
Yeah.
I like I said, I've had things like the tugging on the back of the hoodie. Like I said, when I lived in the house trailer, one of the incidents that took place there was I was at the counter doing something, and my daughter, she was little at the time. She wasn't even there. She was at my parents' house, and I was daytime, middle of the day. I was standing there at the counter. I don't know if I was cooking something, getting ready to cook something. I was standing there relaxed, and all of a sudden, on the back of my T-shirt, on the lower part of it, was tugs. It's like I turned around, like, the heck? There's nobody in my house. Who did that? Another incident in the same house. Now my daughter was there that night, but she was asleep. I was sitting on the couch watching TV. It was oh, I forget what I was watching, but it wasn't loud. And like I said, her bedroom was on the opposite end of the trailer, all the way down. And all of a sudden, I hear these two little footsteps come running up the hallway. And before I turn around, I'm like, Brianna, you're supposed to be in bed. I turn around, what the? She wasn't there. I get up, walk down there. She's sound asleep in her bed, covered up. You know, so I wonder. That house was old. It was an old house trailer, and like I said, I had two tugs on my lower back. On the bottom of my shirt in the back, and then I hear those little two, those two little feet come running up the hallway. Nothing's there.
Yeah.
Is there a ghost of a young child here? That's what I question myself. But I don't go looking to get involved with the paranormal. It just happens to come
hmm
around.
hmm
So,
hmm
and it's just the strangest thing. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff
Interesting,
that
man.
happens in this world. Yeah. So,
Very interesting.
yeah,
I've
I
got.
try to keep my focus on Bigfoot, but like I said, if anything else happens,
Yeah.
I walk. It's whatever.
Well, as you say, you're very open, and I think when you're open to this kind of stuff, whether it be Bigfoot, UFOs, whatever it is, I think you kind of get it all. It all seems to be connected in a way, you know.
Right.
Very interesting, man. I've got to ask you about the panther. I've written down Black Panther because we
Oh
mentioned
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
cat. I've got to ask you about that, man.
Yeah. So I'm trying to say there was something I wanted to bring up about that. Oh, so you mentioned that the authorities out there deny that you guys have it, right?
Yeah, yeah. But so many people, there's so many reports, all
I
sorts
know
of
for
different sizes, you know, Black
oh yeah,
Panthers, small lynx and stuff like that.
I
But
know there. I can't remember who she is or who's behind it. I used to follow a group from the UK that does a lot of cryptozoology, cryptid research, and I know Big Cats was one of their focus too.
hmm hmm
I always thought that was interesting. Um, 'Cause most of the UK, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, 'cause I don't live there. I mean, a lot of the UK is a lot of it's part of it, kind of almost like an island, right?
Oh yeah,
Depends
absolutely. Yeah,
depends on where you live, I guess.
yeah. But there is,
But
there is, there's a lot of forested areas. You know,
right,
even though we're a lot smaller than the US, but there is a lot of forest. There's a lot of green in the UK.
right.
But I mean, and these things. I believe it was in the 70s. There was a new law where you couldn't have the big cats, and a lot of the people just kind of let them go, you know. And
Oh,
it's possible that maybe some interbred, and there's a different kind of cat out there that we don't know. But there's so
yeah.
many sightings of black panthers and lynxes and all sorts of different cats, that are not meant to be there, but so many people see them.
Well, yeah. About that. So you guys have the authorities denying them out there. We have here denying them here. You know, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the whole Bigfoot thing too. Um, Anything the thought that the authorities do know about Bigfoot, you know, but they're not gonna, they come across as skeptics or naysayers or whatever they may be. But when it comes down to the cat itself, this is something I feel. To me, this makes sense. They're denying it, you know. So why question why are they denying it? Well, there's a fear factor involved. You know, I mean, think about the public recreation. You know, people like to go out and camp or hike or explore. You know, I know there's a lot of camping over there in the UK because I follow a couple guys, two different guys on YouTube. Some awesome stuff up there in the UK. I've learned a lot from these guys, and you know, yeah, of course they go out there. You know, you don't hear them talk about wildlife too much, but they go out there and set up their camp. These guys are survival man, bushcraft guys, and they go out there experiment with different camping equipment. You know, and they share it on their over their YouTubers. You know, so yeah, but with that being said, you know, like saying here, we got a lot of people that like to spend time out in the outdoors. You know, take their families up there. You know, they spend money to equip to go out there. So my thing is, let's think about this. If the local governments, if the authorities were put out there, yes, we have mountain lions in the forest here. Never mind saying there's a Bigfoot out here, but let's just use mountain lions for the time being. So if it became public knowledge, you know, widely known to the public, yes, they're going to admit, yes, we do have mountain lions roaming the East Coast, you know, and they are here in Virginia or whatever. What's that going to cause? Well, for again, that's going to cause a fear factor. People ain't going to want to go out there. You know, people
Hmm.
are going to become scared. You know. Okay, so with that being said, people are going to stop spending money. You know. You know. So there's the economical side of things versus the fear factor. Uh, you know. Now, hey, let's all right. I'll throw this in here too. Let's talk about Bigfoot. If the government or the authorities or Bigfoot ever became publicly or widely acknowledged to be a known living species among us.
Hmm.
Well, he lives in the woods. Yep. Okay, we have logging. You know, it's a big part of the economy in most places here in the country,
Hmm.
and they would have to cease a lot of the economical, you know, businesses. You know, would Bigfoot have to be put on an endangered species list, being that he's a humanoid figure? You know, uh, back in the '60s, you know, over on the West Coast in Washington State, the spotted owl was discovered, and later on seen in the '80s and back in the early '90s. But it wasn't until the early '90s where they put the spotted owl on the endangered species list. The spotted owl is just a little tiny thing, you know, small little owl. What happened when they put that thing on the endangered species list? All the logging industry came to a halt. And out west, the logging is a much larger industry than it is here in the East Coast. And it put people out of work, you know, and you know, the logging, yeah, people lost money. So these are things you got to think about. This is,
Absolutely.
you know, why they don't want things put out there, you
And,
know.
and could it be like developing properties as well? And obviously,
Exactly.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I hate taking forests down. I think forests should be left alone. But we know that big corporations buy land and obviously knock the forest down to build homes. And I guess
Yeah.
that's another factor.
I've seen that happen here in Virginia in numerous locations, but especially when I first moved down here. Um, yeah, there was a over on the east side of Virginia we first lived. There was an area I can remember it being full of woods and forests. You won't even recognize that location now. It's so wiped out.
Oh man,
Big WalMarts and town centers and restaurants.
yeah.
And, yeah, I mean all kinds of shopping outlets and everything. It's just
Hmm.
yeah, it's a big. Before, if you saw the before and after, you go, wow. Think
Yeah.
about all the wildlife that used to live there. You know, so
It's
it's
like
crazy. It's happening
where I
everywhere.
live now, I've got a big forest behind me. But before, apparently back in the 80s, like the forest was all around us. You know, now there's shops and there's other houses and stuff, but and I think obviously that's going to happen as countries get more people and stuff and but it's sad to lose our forests.
It
You
is.
know,
It's kind of disturbing in a way. I
yeah,
mean,
man.
I'm not one of those. hippie tree huggers, but
Hmm. Yeah,
if you just take the time to think about the reality, I mean, we want to preserve our forest. We really do.
absolutely. And they're
It's
special.
yeah, you don't want to lose it. We need the trees. We need the forest.
Hmm.
This is where we get our. It produces oxygen and other
Yeah.
needs for health reasons and everything else.
Absolutely.
So,
You go for a walk in the forest, it relaxes you. You're at one with nature. Everything's slow and peaceful, unless there's
oh
obviously a Bigfoot around. But it's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's a part of us. It's a part. There's something to the forest and nature that is a part of us that we need. You
right,
know.
absolutely,
So leave the forest
absolutely,
alone, guys.
for
The-
sure.
have you seen a big cat? Did you say you'd seen a big cat?
Yep. Back in the same year, I had that encounter where the subject walked away from me. Well, it was that year, a little bit later that year. Actually, me and one other individual came into the area. It happened in the same location, except it was for like where you're coming out from the lake. It was just beyond that. We had parked in the area, one of the camp spots. We had just parked there. We went out there to just kind of hang out for a little while. We weren't there to camp or nothing like that. But it was in the evening. There was still some daylight left, and we're out there. We're staying out in the middle of the road, and we're kind of hanging out. Well, one odd thing, we heard something in the woods. We don't know what it was, but it was something in the woods making some weird noise. It was like it sounded like it was moaning. I don't know. We don't know what it was. The guy that was with me, he's like, "Oh, that's a juvenile squatch." Okay, how do you know? But it was. I don't know. It was just weird. It was just a weird moan type sound I never heard in the woods before. So we kept hearing that on and off. It didn't sound too far off, but it wasn't that close either. But at one point, I'm looking down the road. What the heck is that? I see something dark on the side of the road, like really solid dark. I couldn't make it out. Guy that was with me, his name's Fred. I said, Fred, what the heck is that? And all of a sudden, it became very clear because it actually got up on all fours and took his time going across the road. It was a black cat. You couldn't deny it. All four legs and the long tail floating behind it. I said, shit, Fred, are you seeing that? He said, yeah. I said, dude, we got to go down there. He said, what? There was, I don't know. I was like, it went in the woods and crossed the, it was apparently it was sitting there on the side of the road. I didn't know what it was. It was, all I saw was this solid, dark, black mass. I know there's a lot of bears in the area. I was like, they don't look like no bear I've seen. But sure enough, it became very clear when it got up and walked on all fours. And but
Whoa.
we did end up going down there because we stayed there until after it got dark. We got our lights out. We walked down there, and we did try to look around a little bit. Like you couldn't make out anything down there because the foliage was so thick in the trees and the bushes and whatever. But I mean, the one side of the road you could see where the tall grass was, and you could see where game like the deer crossed through there. You could see, but whatever, you know, we couldn't make it out. I mean, whatever was moaning in the woods, earlier that day, made you wonder, like, okay, was that pursuing something? Maybe working his way around, coming around a long way. I've heard
Hmm.
they've been known to do that. Bears do that sometimes, but I don't know. It was just very strange.
Yeah.
We heard that moaning sound, and we've seen that large black cat. Now, I've gotten pictures of tracks, very large cat tracks in the snow, you know, up there before. I got a picture of my
Interesting.
yeah, I got a picture of my hand next to it. I'm holding my hand out next to a cat track, so, but yeah, I don't know.
Interesting, man. And do you think
Yeah,
possibly a panther? Is that what you were thinking it was?
I believe it was, but according to research, they're actually not panthers. They're actually, from what I've learned, I can't prove this, but based off of what I've learned, that they're actually a type of jaguar. You
Okay.
know, jaguars are highly mistaken for being a panther. Um, there are panthers which are more known for being down in South America or other parts of the jungle and stuff like that. But most of the black cat sightings that are seen are believed. I'm not saying that this is believed to see a jaguar, because jaguars got the spots, and
Hmm.
being that they're black, you're not going to see the spots unless you're looking right up on them. So
Hmm.
I mean, I believe that's a very possibility. I mean, I label it as a panther because they were solid black at the distance we see it. I mean, but there's a possibility where it could be, a jaguar. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Interesting, man.
So,
But like Bigfoot, if these things don't want to be found,
mhm.
they're obviously skilled in their environment, and they won't be found. And obviously it's
Oh yeah.
like Bigfoot. You get little glimpses every now and again, but so
Now,
many people see them, man.
according to, I mean, I've had other reports from people I've worked with. This one older gentleman, old timer, he got called to a friend of his who lives up the road from him. He's a Mennonite um, farmer. They're very, for those who don't know, they're very similar to Amish. Anyway, there's a lot of Mennonite farms are out here, and I guess the farmer saw his cattle acting kind of strange one evening, and saw that they were kind of all huddled together in a cluster. He went out to investigate. The guy go check on them, and he's looking around. He walked. He actually walked out to the cows, and he's looking around with the light, checking the area. And then in the far corner of one of inside the fence line, he's seen a cat, and he called my buddy Richard up at the time. Richard went up there the next day and to go look around to investigate and kind of see if he could find anything else up there. He found tracks. He said his track was as large as big as his hand. It was in
Oh,
that area where the guy said he saw it too. Now, for the record, this farm is on the east side from where we camp, because there's a ridge line that runs over there. We're on the other side of the ridge. That cat sighting was over there on the east side of that ridge. The area we work in, there's a large number of reports from this area. I put a blog out some years ago, and I had several people respond, from surrounding counties. And I later learned that there's been cats spotted in this area, large cats. Yes, there's some domestic cats in there because I've captured a lot of small cats in the area there. There is some domestic house cats, and the farm, there's farms that border the edge of this property where we camp. So yes, there's some domestic cats out there, but there's also known as large cats out there. Because one of our guys that camped with us one night, the same night that we seen that strange light, one of the guys didn't come all the way up with us. He stayed by the edge of the field. There was an incident that took place with him. We learned about it after we got back to camp because David's wife, who was one of the people that were back at camp, got on the radio and said, Drew's back here and something happened to him. Like, he was pretty shook up about it, which we later on, learned about it. He actually shared the information I got on camera. While he was up there, he saw something in the field in the tall grass. And the way he described it, it was like kind of like making these hissing sounds at him, and it kept approaching him. And the eye, he couldn't make out what it was. He saw the eyes because he had a small flashlight. His light was reflecting. He seen whatever it was. The eyes and the head were just above the top of the grass, and it kept approaching him. And I guess even yelled at it. And at one point, he had a whistle. He was blowing the whistle, and he said it didn't react right away, but finally it seemed like it stopped and went away after a few other attempts. And just the way he described the details of what was approaching him, I said, his name is True, by the way. I said, True. I said, I'm sorry, I can't help but think the way you described the details of what was approaching you, the hissing sound, sounded like you had a cat approaching you. And the grass, for the record, the grass was almost 2 feet tall.
hmm.
And for the eyes to be just above the top of the grass, that's a pretty sized cat. You
Yeah, man.
know. But again, he couldn't clarify what it was. But I'm ba- I'm going off based on his description and the behavior. That to me definitely sounded like a cat.
Yeah.
So,
Which
but
is
I don't
scary,
know.
man. That's just as scary as a Bigfoot or, a bear
Oh
coming at you.
Well, he was pretty shook up because even when he was telling the story, you could hear it when on camera. I mean, I filmed it. I had a film him talking about it because yeah, he definitely sounded pretty shook up about it. And especially this guy here, he's a city boy. He comes all the way from he comes a good 2 hours from the city to join us every year at camp. Or the more he's out, he loves being out there. Don't get me wrong, he loves it.
Yeah.
And for whatever oddball reason, he always camps. He takes his tent instead of being in our little group area that we set up. He's got to go. He's always got to be the one that goes the farthest away from everybody. I don't know for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But that night there, where his tent was set up way away from camp, he picked up. He had a small tent, a dome tent. He picked it up and carried it. He's camping with us now. He does not go by himself no more.
It wasn't so brave after that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was not the same person. He's like, I'm staying close to you guys. Because we carry sidearms out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
David, he's retired from the Army and law enforcement. I mean, me, David, and my John and his wife Mary, they come up there. We all carry. So
Yeah.
we got permits and stuff to carry out there. But
I think you got to, man. When you've got all that going on, you got to.
yeah, I mean, so much. You just never know what to expect. You got to be,
Yeah.
rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man.
So,
There's definitely so much out there,
absolutely.
unknown, waiting to be discovered. It's fascinating stuff, man. And you've had some cool experiences, especially the three possible Sasquatch. I mean, that sounds very much like Sasquatch that were looking at you that night.
Well, that night there, we can't prove it, but I like to label that as like a possible family of Sasquatch.
Yeah, that's
just judging from the sizes. I
mhm.
mean, I would have loved to capture more detail on that. I really would have.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the way it goes. Maybe I'll have an experience again where, hey guys, look, I got this on camera and it's not freaking AI. So shut up. Because AI has become social media AI enemy
Yeah.
for
Oh,
us people.
absolutely. And
And
maybe
there's
it's
so
done
much.
on purpose. Maybe that's done on purpose as well.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that's true. That's true. Like, yeah, release the government release the AI.
give them the AI, and then we can call everything AI because we've all
Yeah,
got amazing. Everyone's got a cell phone now with an amazing HD camera. You imagine
exactly.
the amount of stuff that's going to be captured in the next couple of years.
I mean, it's, we got some. Yeah, because I'm using the virtual background, you can't see it. But our smartphones.
Yeah,
I mean, I got a Samsung Galaxy. This thing here. I mean, I
great
remember people.
cameras.
Yeah, they record in 4K.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I mean, actually, if I'm not mistaken, this phone's got 8K resolution.
yeah, man.
But 4K does just fine. So,
So maybe
but
that's why it's what we were saying earlier, why it's free. Because if everyone's got AI, everything can be blamed on AI. When people do
yeah,
get these amazing videos of UFOs, Bigfoot, whatever, straight away, that's what people say it is now. And that's unfortunate. It makes things
yeah,
very difficult for guys like you that are out there.
exactly. Now AI could be beneficial if we use it in the right way. I mean, I
Hmm.
have several AI apps on my phone,
Yeah.
but I like I think I mentioned earlier. I use it to create thumbnails and other things. Like I was talking to a buddy of mine who's actually going to be my guest tomorrow night. I was like, yeah, I use AI to help me with my book. You know,
Hmm.
it strengthened some of the stuff I was putting out there, and it helped me guide me through creating the margins and the measurements and the layouts for my book cover, which was
Hmm.
very frustrating. By the way, that was a lot of headache right there. But I mean, AI gave me the steps to do what I had. Gave me what I had to do. While I had the AI on my phone. I'm working on my computer. So, okay, I'm telling AI. I said, okay, I'm confused. then they come up with another way. Okay, well here's
Yeah, no,
so
it's great, man. I mean,
yeah,
I'm a hypocrite. I use AI every day now, and I love
yeah,
it. You take it away now, and you're like, what do I do? It
right,
is
right.
so valuable. It's so good. I mean, see,
I
God,
mean, I
I'm
get
I'm not great with spelling, so
yeah.
I put things in the air to make sure I'm spelling stuff right because the amount of times I spell things wrong. So for stuff like that, you can't fault it, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I got Gemini, I got Chat GPT, and whatever, and some other. Oh, and I use Meta AI now too. Meta AI it's a fun thing. Like I said,
Yeah.
I do them. I use a lot of it to create silly images. So. But I have fun with it. You gotta have fun with it.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Brother,
Make it go to your advantage.
absolutely, man. And it's
Yeah,
undeniable. There's no way we can get away from it now. It's such a big part of our world. And it's going to keep getting bigger, unfortunately. Whether that's good or bad, we'll see.
oh,
But,
for sure.
brother, I have loved chatting to you tonight, man. It's been super interesting. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for sharing your experiences. Very excited to read the book, and I'm going to continue watching the show. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I personally, I'm not hard to find. If you put my name in just the way you see here, even if you do a Google search, you'll find a lot of information about me there.
Hmm.
I'm all over Facebook. Find me on Facebook, Daniel Benoit, ECBRO, uh, the East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization, and um, yeah, as far as the new book that's just published, Trail of the Unknown, uh, A Journey Beyond Truth. It right now it's currently available on the publishing site lulu.com, but it will be available for global distribution. I'm hoping soon. I paid some good money for that. So hopefully you'll be able to find it on Amazon, online, Barnes and Noble, and all that. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it goes well. Yeah, check me out on YouTube. I have my YouTube channel where every Friday night we go live with a guest. Uh, right now, to the like I said, I'm in the season of the podcast because of the cold weather and the winter and everything that we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
So I take advantage of that because I can't get out and to explore and investigate like I want to. But yeah, we go live every Friday night right now. So that's the YouTube channel, Bigfoot Zone ECBRO. So, and then I
Awesome.
have the online radio program, ECBRO Bigfoot Radio, found on any of your favorite podcast platforms. iHeartRadio, Pandora, Apple, Amazon Music, you name it, it's pretty much there. So again, that's ECBRO Bigfoot Radio. So, but
Awesome
yeah,
stuff, man.
I'm all over pretty much. So yeah,
Awesome stuff. Well, keep up the great work, brother. Hopefully, this
thank
is
you.
the first of many conversations. I'd love to
Oh, for
talk to you
sure.
more. Keep us posted if anything else happens. I'll share the links in the show description so people can find you right now. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, hey, thank you for having me on. This has been amazing. I had a lot of, I had a good time chatting with you. This is a great podcast. More people got
Oh,
to get on
thank
here.
you very much, brother. I really
Oh,
appreciate that. Thank you.
absolutely. My
And you got an
pleasure.
amazing beard as well. I need to grow mine out a bit more.
Maybe next time you see me, maybe it's down to here.
Yeah,
I'll put some braids in it, like a
I need to
Viking or
get.
something.
Well,
Yep.
thank you so much, man. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, share it where you can. That is a great way to support the podcast. And we'll be back very soon for more freaky conversations. In the meantime, stay safe and keep it
Absolutely.
freaky. Bye for now. Thank you very much, sir.
Hey, thank you so much. This has been great.